Hello everyone, thank you for patiently waiting. Welcome to National Intern Week 2024. I'm your host Josh from CareerMap TV, and today we're joined with PwC to discuss their internship programme. During this session, we'll learn more about the specific ins and outs of the organisation and what it is like to work with them. There will be a Q&A segment at the end of the webinar, so feel free to leave any questions in the chat box and we'll get back to them at the end of the presentation. So without further ado, I'll now pass it over to Andrew, Aisha and Anna to start their session. Off you go, guys.
Great. Thank you very much, Josh. Just first and foremost, can I just check that you can hear me? Great. I've got the thumbs up. Thank you, Josh. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. It's great to see so many of you. I think we've got nearly 200 on the session, so that's brilliant. So thanks so much for joining. I'm joined by my colleagues Anna and Aisha. There will be a specific session from Anna and Aisha where they'll introduce themselves, talk to you about their roles. Their roles and backgrounds very different to mine, and they will also we'll run a Q&A session with Anna and Aisha as well. So you'll hear more from them shortly. So just to kick off, just to introduce myself. So my name's Andrew Bargery. I work as part of our student recruitment team. So we recruit lots and lots of undergraduates and graduates across the UK at PwC. And the role I play within that team is I work with a lot of universities, lots of schools, and we look to try and recruit the best and the most diverse students across the UK into many different offices. So I've just, there's a QR code on the first slide. I don't know if our cameras are blocking that, but I'll just pop something in the chat as well. But that will take you through to our early careers webpage where we've got all the information that we're covering today and much, much more. So please do either scan the QR code or click on the link in the chat. So what we're going to cover today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about who PwC are. I'm going to talk to you about our selection process, and we're going to go into detail about the different stages. In order to get a job at any organisation, you have to go through a selection process, and some of those stages might be quite challenging, but the purpose of today is we're going to give you some hints and tips as around how you can best prepare for the selection process and best perform for that. And then you'll hear more from Anna and Aisha just about their roles, their experience at PwC, and some really useful hints and tips from them as well, and the chance for you to ask some questions too. So quick, I'm just going to run through now just a quick overview of PwC, who we are and what we do. I could probably spend about an hour talking about PwC, if not longer. So I'm just going to try and give you some of the headlights and highlights. So we're based across the UK. We have 19 different offices. So I'm based out of our Manchester office, but we have 18 other offices outside of that. So up and down the UK. We were voted the #1 employer of part of the Times Top 100, which recently was publicised, something we're really, really proud of. Across the UK, there's over 25,000 employees at PwC. We are part of a global network as well, so we employ over 300,000 people across over 150 countries. So if you do have an appetite and an aspiration to go and work overseas and internationally, organisations like PwC can certainly offer those opportunities. And we are one of the largest recruiters of school leavers, undergraduates and graduates. So across all those programmes, school leavers, undergraduates and graduates, we recruit about 3,000 early careers individuals to PwC in the UK across those 19 offices. So I think that really showcases the value that we put into young people and the value that we put into graduates, undergraduates and school leavers, and the amount that we invest into those individuals when they join us on those programs. I know there's a couple of questions in the chat. I've actually been at PwC for a long, long time. I've been at PwC for 20 years. So I've been here for a good period. I think there's so many fantastic things about working at PwC, the challenging work, there's great opportunities, and I work with a lot of amazing people I would single out. In terms of the countries that you could work in, I won't go through those 152, but we have offices in a lot of major cities across the globe as well. And again, if you just look on pwc.com, our global website, you can find out more about where we're based. So what do we do at PwC? So we offer, we class ourselves as a professional services firm. And what does this mean? Sometimes people say you're an accountancy firm. Sometimes people say you're a consultancy firm. We're all of those things. When we say professional services, we provide a range of different services to clients to ultimately help the way they do business. And I won't go through all these because, again, we are aiming to finish this session by 5:30, and we've got lots to get through. But these services are different areas that we recruit graduates and undergraduates into. And these are different roles that we offer to students. I will just pause there because I've seen a question around someone's doing a degree and they're a mature student, they're 32. No, age doesn't matter. Age is irrelevant. It doesn't matter as well whether you graduated 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or you're about to graduate for our graduate roles. Age and when you actually graduated is irrelevant. So hopefully I've dealt with that one. The one thing I wanted to point out on this slide is we know that areas like consulting are really, really popular. And I think when I have conversations with students, and this has been a regular conversation during my time at PwC, I often hear, I'm really interested in consulting. And when I say to them, okay, why are you interested in consulting? Sometimes they look at me and think, oh, I wasn't expecting that question back. And they stop and think. And often they say, well, I really like the idea of, working with clients and helping to solve their problems. And my answer is pretty much always the same when I hear that. It's very much, okay, that's great, but that is what we do across every single department that we offer. So all these different business areas help clients to solve problems. Whether you work in audit, whether you work in deals, whether you work in risk, whether you work in technology, you are in a client-facing role. So with all the roles, there is an element of consulting, supporting clients and helping them solve their problems. So that's the bit I wanted to point out. For more information, again, if you click on our early careers website, and you can read more about what these different areas mean. Audit is the biggest area that we recruit into. So the majority of our undergraduates, so summer interns, for example, placement students and graduates, we recruit into our audit business, but we do recruit into other parts of our business too. Okay, I'm now going to talk about our selection process. So this is what our end-to-end selection process looks like. And I won't spend a huge amount of time on this slide because I am going to go through each of these sections individually. There are some slight variations depending on the programs that you apply for. I will talk about the different programs that we offer at PwC. There are some slight variations. So for some of the undergraduate programs, you go through a slightly shorter application process. The other thing I will add, because I see there's a couple of questions that relate to this. What do we recruit from specific backgrounds? No, we don't. It doesn't matter what the subject of your degree is. We recruit from any background into most of our undergraduate and graduate roles. What are the academic requirements that we have? We don't look at UCAS points, so it doesn't matter what you've scored, what grades you've got at A-level or equivalent. Historically, we used to look for you to be on target for 2-1, but now we've removed that as part of our criteria as well. You just need to be on target to pass your degree at university and to ensure that you complete your degree. Okay, this slide is what we call the PwC Professional. And what is the PwC Professional and what does it mean? The PwC Professional is ultimately, this is a set of behaviours, and we've made some recent changes to the PwC Professional. So I think the reality of this is internally, we're still getting quite used to the PwC Professional. But the PwC Professional is ultimately, it's a set of behaviours that we look at when we recruit any individual to join PwC, whether that be for an internship programme, a graduate role, or somebody who joins at a much more experienced high level. So the PwC Professional, this isn't a top secret slide. This is something that is available on our careers website, and we do talk about what the PwC Professional is. What we recommend is when you're applying for a role at PwC or when you're applying for any organisation, you have in mind what their competency or assessment framework would be. And with the PwC Professional, this is what we say with this is how we expect you to behave, not just when you're applying to PwC, but also whilst you're an employee of PwC. So myself and all my PwC colleagues, because we're we're members of staff at PwC, we're already here, does that mean we can forget about the PwC professional because we've already conquered the recruitment process? In short, no, it doesn't, because each year we're assessed in terms of how we perform over what we call our performance year against the PwC professional. And what the PwC professional essentially says is, yes, it's really important what you do in your job, but it's actually really important how you behave. So if PwC employees, we're very much focused on solving problems. And yes, you know, we need to solve problems in the right way, but actually the behavior we display to solve those problems and how we work with other people is really, really important as well. Okay, the application form. So this is the very first stage. So we don't typically ask for a CV or a covering letter. We have an online application form. So when you go onto the PwC website, you will see roles that are listed, including summer internship roles. So our internship roles are for penultimate year students. And you would click on a business area. So you might click on audit, and then you'd click on an office. So you click on Manchester, Leeds, Birmingham, wherever you were interested in working, and wherever we had an internship opportunity. You would then have to create an account, and then you would complete a very short online application form. So we don't ask lots of competency-based questions. This is what we ask for. So we ask for your personal details, educational history. Have you had any extenuating circumstances that have impacted your education in any way? Reasonable adjustments. This is, do you need any reasonable adjustments during the application process? We also ask some anonymized questions around equal opportunities as well. There are some niche parts of the business where we do ask for a CV, and that's for our strategy and opportunities, but typically we don't ask for a CV or a covering letter. So the application form is short. We do recommend, we went live with our roles on Monday of this week. So our graduate and undergraduate roles for next summer and next autumn are now open. So you can make a job application to one of the internship programs at PwC from this point. Check the job descriptions, check for any niche requirements. If you are navigating through the process, the first assessment centre will run in from the end of October. You can only make one job application. So it is really, really important that you do your research and you look to make sure you're applying to the right role that's for you, the right location and the right role. You can't make multiple applications, and don't even attempt to do that, because that'll you'll be seen as trying to cheat the system, and you will then get your applications blocked and your account would be suspended from that point. So make sure you do research, work out, okay, what program am I eligible for and what role do I want to apply for? If you're unsuccessful, you can reapply, but it needs to be 6 months on from the point that you previously applied. I can see there's lots of questions. I'm not ignoring those questions, I promise you. Hopefully with what's to come, I will answer all of your questions, but and you'll also get the opportunity to ask Anna and Aisha some questions as well. So once you've completed your online application form, the next two stages would be, so first of all, there's online assessments. If you get through your online assessments, you would complete a video interview. So there's two stages to the online assessment. There's behavioral and cognitive assessments that you would complete. Okay, so the behavioral test is it's a profile test which looks at how you behave in certain situations, and then the cognitive assessments, so these are ability tests which include some numerical, inductive and deductive reasoning tests. So again, if you scan the QR code, you will be able to link to a practice some practice tests as well. Let me just see if I have got a link that I can pop in the chat as well. No, I will have a link that I can pop into the chat shortly. Okay, so we've got the behavioral test, and this is just an example. I'm not going to ask you to necessarily complete this now, but this is an example of a type of behavioral type question that you get. So which statement describes you best? You get a choice of three, and you have to think, okay, which of these behaviors best describes me? Okay, I'm going to give you the opportunity now. I'm going to just pause for a moment. Don't worry, we don't have a huge amount of time, but here's an example of a question that we would have that is a cognitive question. Okay, now ignore the bar chart just at the moment on the right hand side, but if you look at the question, so the sales revenue, if you read down that, the total sales revenue was 120 million in quarter one. The total sales revenue in quarter 2 decreased by 10 million compared to quarter 1. And then this is asking to split between the East and the West. Sales revenue in the East was 78 million for quarter 1. Sales revenue in the West increased by 46 million from quarter 1 to quarter 2. So the question is arrange the sales revenue in millions by quarter and the percentages in the East and West. Okay, so you have to think about the split between East and West for quarter 1 and quarter 2. Now, if you were doing an online assessment, what you'd be asked to do to answer that question, you'd be asked to move the drag the lines on the bar chart. So those bar charts are just currently displayed as 50-50, but you need to take into account the sales revenue information and the question, and then drag the bar charts accordingly to come up with your response to the information you've got on the left-hand side. So I'll just take a pause. I'll just give you a moment to have a look at that and see if you can come up with a response. Feel free to pop your responses in the chat as well. Don't worry if you've only got the answer to quarter 1. I don't expect you to. This is just purely a practice question, and in real time, when you did your test, you would get longer than I'm giving you now. But so maybe I'm being a bit unfair, so I apologise for that. But we just wanted to give you a sample for the type of question. So yeah, I can see there's a response. So you're right. Sales revenue in the East was 78 million in quarter 1, but the question that we've got, so Ekaterina has popped in some percentages for quarter 1. That's great. Thank you for doing that. So yeah, the question is, what would be the East and West percentage sales revenues for quarter 1 and quarter 2 based on the information that you've got on the left-hand side? So Ekaterina, thanks for your response. And we've got an anonymous user who agrees with you. So that's a good sign. So just give it a few more seconds and then I will reveal the response. In terms of the length, it's very much down to you. I think what we encourage you to do with tests is try and get through as many questions as quickly and accurately as you can. So it's typically not a set time per question. There are some slight variations to that, and there are some questions which do have a timer on. If you do have, if you require reasonable adjustment, which I mentioned, we ask you on the application form. So, for example, if you do have a disability and you might require additional time, we will contact you before you do any of the assessments. We will have a conversation with you and we'll make those reasonable adjustments so you do get additional time in the process. Right, I'm going to go through the responses. So we've got the answers. So the total revenue in quarter 1 is 120 million, and the East accounts for 78 million of that, or 65%. That leaves 42%, which is the revenue for the West, which is 35%. So Ekaterina, an anonymous user, you are correct. So well done. And then for quarter 2, total revenue for quarter 2 is 10 million less than the revenue for quarter 1. So that's 110 million. The revenue for the West increased by 46 million from quarter 1. So that takes it to 88 million, which is 80% of the total revenue. Okay. So again, I can see some correct responses in there. So well done. And that is just an example of one of the types of questions. The next one is something slightly different, a slightly different question. Again, I'll give you a moment to do this. So at the top of your screen, you have got your calendar, okay? And where you can see it's grayed out, you've got a team meeting, pick up laptop, client meeting or private appointment. You already have calendar entries. And where it's clearer, you have got gaps. And you see underneath, the question is, schedule the tasks as early as possible. Note that your laptop is being repaired today. 2 tasks, which are below, data entry and run reports, can't be done before you pick up your laptop. And then below you've got data entry, which takes an hour, sales marketing, which takes an hour, run reports, which takes 1.5 hours, and you've got to interview somebody, which takes 1.5 hours. So bear in mind the information that you've given, where would you slot in those? And again, on an online assessment, you would be able to drag and drop those. And I know we can't do that today, but I just want you to think, okay, given the information that I've got, where would those additional tasks need to fit in my calendar? Again, I'll just give you a moment to look at that. Okay, I can see there's a question around what time is the laptop repaired. Whilst it doesn't specifically state that, from your calendar, there is a grade bit where you will pick up your laptop, which is at 12 o'clock. So you know your laptop's being repaired before that, and it will be ready at 12, and you've got that scheduled into your calendar. So between 12 and 12:30 is where you'll be picking up your laptop. Okay, you just need to consider the length of those blocks that you've got underneath. So the data entry takes an hour, sales and marketing takes an hour, run reports 1.5 hours, and then the interview 1.5 hours. Now the spare blocks in your calendar are 30-minute blocks, just to let you know. So I'm going to reveal the answer. So your interview, you would do at the start of your day because that takes an hour and a half, and you've got an hour and a half gap before your team meeting. And after that, you would do sales and marketing, which takes an hour. You would run the reports from 2 o'clock, because again, that takes an hour and a half. And then you do your data entry at the end of the day. So 2 tasks, data entry and run reports, have to be done after the laptop's back. Okay. So it's a slightly different question and slightly different task. But again, it's just to give you a bit of a sample, a bit of an idea. Don't worry if you haven't quite got to grips. I was a bit unfair with giving the amount of time that I've given you to do those tasks, but hopefully that gives you a little bit of a flavor for the types of questions that you would come across in our cognitive assessments. Okay, next stage. If you successfully navigate the online assessments, you would be invited to a video interview. Okay, now the video interview is a pre-recorded video, so it's not a one-to-one video, so there wouldn't be somebody at the on the other side of the screen asking you questions. There are 2 different parts to it. So once you start recording, you will need to complete within the time limit. So you will get some motivational questions. You will be asked questions about the part of PwC that you have applied for. So if you've applied for tax or audit or deals, you will be asked a question around why you've applied for that area. So it's really, really important for you to have done your research and for you to be able to display, I've done some research about the part of PwC that I am applying for. We also want and expect you to do some research about why you've applied to PwC. We don't want or need a sort of an answer that you get from ChatGPT. We want your personal reasons. We want to ensure that you've got personal motivations for why you've applied for your particular business area and why you've applied for PwC. We also ask you some scenario-based questions. So we give you some questions that are scenarios that you would come across as an intern or a recent graduate joiner at PwC. We'd give you some examples of some scenarios, and we'd ask you how you'd respond in those scenarios. Okay, so they're the 2 different types of questions you would get at video interview stage. If you get through the video interview stage, next up would be our assessment center stage. Now, the assessment centers are, we run them virtually, and I'm just going to talk to you about the different elements of the assessment center. So there's 3 different elements. There's an interview, there's an individual exercise, and there's a group discussion. I'm going to go into those different stages. So the interview is a one-to-one interview. So even though this is done virtually, there is a person live at the other end. So it might be me, might be one of my colleagues who's doing the interview. We will ask you further questions around your motivation for applying. So again, it's ensuring that you've got an understanding of the role and why you want to come and work for PwC. So this interview will last 20 minutes. There will be some motivational questions in there as well. There'll be no scenario or competency-based questions at this particular stage. You'll also be doing an individual exercise. So you'll be asked to do some written analysis and some preparation as well. It's information based on a fictitious company. Again, you would need to do some a numerical calculation. Do you need A-level maths or anything beyond GCSE maths to be able to come and work at PwC? Typically, no. If you want to go on and become an actuary, if anybody's interested in an actuarial career and going on to become an actuary, which is one of the areas you offer, that is something that is very mathematical based, and you do need to have A-level maths to go in and do that. But if you want to work in audit, tax, deals, consulting, risk, you don't need to have A-level maths at all in that. There is also a group discussion. So as part of the group exercise, again, it's done in a virtual surroundings. There would be up to 6 candidates, and there'd be 2 assessors. You'd be given a hypothetical business situation. You'd be given 30 minutes. You'd be given some preparation time and then some discussion time, and you would be observed how you discuss. And what we really look for is how well you work together. We're not looking for you to try and outcompete one of the other candidates who's in the group discussion. It's very much looking, are you displaying team behaviors and how well are you working together? What types of things can you do to prepare for an assessment? Again, if you scan the QR code, you will be able to go to our employability hub, where we've got lots of great resources available to you. But we do say, try and do some practice tests and assessments. Think about your experiences, really think about the research you've done, why you've applied for that particular role and why you've applied for PwC. Think about the behaviors of the role as well. On the day of the assessment, it's really important that you do a tech check. Make sure that the environment that you're in, make sure you're fully prepared, make sure you can review the information, make sure you don't have too many distractions, and try and build rapport with the people you're there, whether it be the interview or the other group, because that's what we do at PwC. We work in teams, we work with clients, and a massive part of what we do is about relationship building. If we can't build good relationships with clients or good relationships with colleagues, then we're not going to be very successful as individuals at PwC. And that is a massive part. Yes, we give lots of technical advice, but when you join as an intern or when you join as a graduate, we don't expect you to have that technical knowledge. We will train you and give you that. But what we do hope that you will do is that you will work well, you'll build relationships with other people. So it's really important to demonstrate that as part of your virtual assessment centre. The next slide talks a bit about Gen AI, and I know this is something very, very topical. I've been to a couple of conferences that have talked about Gen AI in recruitment, and I was fascinated to understand that, and no surprise that students use Gen AI all the time, every day. Students think they should be allowed to use Gen AI in the application process, but students don't think employers should be using it as part of their screening process. We don't. But our stance, and this may change in the future, but our stance for this year is that we don't allow students to use Gen AI as part of our recruitment process. There's a couple of reasons for this. First and foremost, with our application form, we don't ask a series of long-winded competency-based questions. We simply want your very, very basic information. We want to just assess your eligibility for the role that you've applied for, okay? Based on your year of study and based on 1 or 2 other factors. So the application form is very easy to complete. You would not need to use ChatGPT to complete your application form. Why do we not want you to use it at subsequent stages of our process? Because we want to find out more about you. We don't want robotic answers, and we want to find out more about why you've applied for your particular area. What are your personal passions and what are your drivers for coming to work for PwC? We also want to understand that or assess that there's substance behind your response as well. One of the other things as well, I will just add, is we're aware that there are paid versions of ChatGPT that are available, and some of those are quite costly. And there will be some individuals who are studying at university who simply can't afford to pay for a paid version of ChatGPT. So do we feel that's fair, that some people will only have access to the free versions and some people will have access to the paid versions? We don't feel that's right. So there are a number of reasons why we say don't use Gen AI in the application process. And please don't try and circumnavigate the process, because again, we do have proctoring in place. We do have means of checking whether individuals are using Gen AI. And if you're found to be using it, you'll be disqualified from the process. So we don't feel you need to use it in our process, and we ask you not to use it as well. Do we use it in the workplace? Yeah, we do. And in fact, something really interesting, we have devised our own version of ChatGPT, and it is called Chat PwC. So it's available for everyone at PwC in the UK. We all have to undergo specific training, first of all, before we get given a license. But yeah, I have a license for Chat PwC. I haven't used it today, but I do use it regularly. And in fact, it's on my list. I've got a piece of work that I'm doing where I know I need the help of Chat PwC. So that is on my list for tomorrow. Okay, the final stage for most roles, this is graduate roles and some internship roles, is a senior interview. So up to this point, you'll have done end-to-end, you'll have done that online, but the senior interview is typically in person and is likely to be at the office you've applied for. So you will get to meet somebody senior at PwC, and they will do a final stage interview. As I said, that's for all graduate roles and for some of our summer internship roles as well. Okay, so there will be some advice, guidance, and preparation that you will undertake before you actually do your senior interview. So we will look to ensure that you're as prepared as possible. When completing an interview, what we recommend when you get questions, and just I'd love to know in the chat if people have heard of this, if you've heard of the STAR technique. It's quite commonly used, it's quite often spoken about, but it's a really good way of just structuring your answers. So when you're asked a question in an interview, if you use the STAR technique and think about the situation, the task, the action, and the result. Great, I can see. Thanks, Layla. That's brilliant. You said you have. Brilliant. An anonymous user. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Some of you have heard of it. As I said, this isn't something new, but something that people sometimes, when it comes to an interview situation, and naturally people get a bit nervous and they sometimes forget about the STAR technique. But I'd really encourage you to, whenever you're giving a response in any form of interview, whether it be a video interview, whether it be an in-person interview, think about the STAR technique to structure your answers and to make sure you're not waffling, to make sure you're not talking unnecessarily. You know, when you get to the result bit, that's the point that you stop. And I appreciate Poppy, absolutely. It can be hard to think about it though when you get stressed. I agree. And would I expect any individual that I interviewed to be nervous? Absolutely. And, you know, we would make allowances for that. You know, would we penalize somebody for being nervous? No, not at all. We would expect that. I think if somebody told me that they went into a job interview situation, they weren't nervous, I perhaps think, oh, I don't believe them, or I might think that's quite unusual. I think even though I've been interviewing and I've worked in recruitment for 20 years, if I had an interview myself tomorrow, I would naturally be nervous. And I think it's just thinking about how you control those nerves, reminding yourself of the STAR technique can definitely help you to do that. Okay. I am just going to very quickly talk about our programs very briefly. So we offer graduate programs. So if you are, and I know that I appreciate the focus today is very much on internships, and I will talk about internships. But if you're in your final year of your degree and you're not intending to do a master's, or if you've graduated already, then you can apply for one of our graduate programs. If you're a first year student, which again, I appreciate some of you won't be, we do have some diversity in business programs. So we have the 3-day, they are paid programs. So we have one called Women in Business. We have a Black Talent in Business program as well. And we have a social mobility pathway program as well called Advancing Social Mobility, which is a new program for this year. So these are specifically for first year undergraduate students. If you're required to do a year in industry, we do offer a small number of work placements, which is an 11-month placement that you can do as your degree. But our summer internship program, and last year we recruited well over 400 summer interns, so really big numbers across a number of different offices. So a lot of our summer internship programs will now be open. They are either a 4, 6 or 8 week placement, and it's a paid program that you do over the summer. So the start date 30th of June for next summer, but we are strongly recommending and advising individuals apply now. To be eligible for an internship, you need to be a penultimate year student. So if you're doing a 3-year degree course and you're in your 2nd year, absolutely. Or if you're doing a 4-year degree course and you're in your 3rd year, yes, you can. If you're in your final year of your undergraduate degree and you are intending to do a 1-year master's course, you can also apply as well. So you need to be in your penultimate year of study to be eligible for a summer internship. Fantastic programs. We recruit them into a number of different offices. The idea behind the internship as well is if you come in and you perform well, we will offer you a graduate job. So you could be going into your final year at university, you've worked for a few weeks over the summer at PwC, you've been paid for it, you've built your network, you've had a great experience, and you've got a graduate job offer. So when you go into your final year, it's one less thing for you to think about. Okay. This talks a little bit about the Advancing Social Mobility program. I won't spend too long on that in the interest of time because it is a 1st-year program, but it's something new. And it's one of the programs that we have that has a specific focus on social mobility and on diversity, because as an organization, diversity is really, really important to us. Okay, on this slide, this is our employability hub, which I know there was a QR code previously. So the Employability Hub is a page on our website where we've got lots of amazing interactive resources. Again, you can scan the QR code there. That'll take you through to the hub. So please do scan it. We have got 3 different e-learns that relate to each different stage of the process. We've got some interactive videos on there so you can see examples of good and bad interview practice. If you are applying to PwC, I would absolutely recommend that you looked at the e-learns because they can provide lots of great support at each stage of the process. So, yeah, please do that. Okay. We do have some in-person events as well, so you can scan that code there. We've got some great offices. As I mentioned, I'm based in Manchester. The Manchester office is fantastic, but I do spend quite a bit of time in my role. I've been in Edinburgh, I've been in Leeds, I've been in one of our London offices, I've been in Birmingham, got some great offices, great locations. So yeah, we do, if you scan that QR code, and if you'll see, we're running some in-person office events as well. Okay, right, you have heard plenty from me. Some of you might be thinking I've heard too much, but I know there's been quite a lot to take on board. I'm going to pop myself on mute, and I'm going to hand over to Anna and Aisha, who are going to introduce themselves, talk to you about what their roles are, share some of their experiences and hints and tips, and then we'll try and get through some questions. So Anna, Aisha, over to you.
Hi everyone, thanks Andrew. I can go first. So my name is Anna. I currently work at PwC. I'm a 2nd year associate, but a little bit about myself and sort of how I got into PwC. I did an accounting and finance degree at King's College in London, and I did the Women in Business programme in my 1st year, so between my 1st and 2nd year at uni. And then that led to me doing the internship in between my 2nd and final year at uni. So the Women in Business programme was 1 week, and it was sort of really insightful into PwC. So it was my first kind of look into the business, and the internship was 4 weeks. But I think I've seen a couple of questions about whether you need to do an accounting and finance degree I do audit currently at PwC. And the answer is no, you don't. So you don't need to do anything to do with accounting and finance. So anything that you need for audit, you learn either in college when you're doing your exams or on the job. And I'm currently doing, as I said, audit, and I work at the Embankment office in London, and I'm in London commercial audit. So sort of sit in the business services areas, which it's hard to explain, but in London commercial audit, we sort of have different places to sit and different clients. But sort of my day-to-day activities, they differ daily. So sometimes I'm at college for a prolonged period of time. So we do exams as part of audit, as part of your qualification. And they last sort of 3 years, and you do client work in between them. But if I'm not in college and not doing exams, I would be doing audit. So that consists of doing client work. You could also do things like volunteering, coaching, tutoring as well. So it's not just sort of client work and in the office all the time. But I think that's everything sort of about me. I'll let Aisha talk about herself as well.
Hi, my name's Aisha, and I just finished the summer internship program at our Aberdeen office. I am in my final year. I just went into my final year of university. I go to Aberdeen University, and I study international business with real estate and accounting. So I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to do. I picked PwC because I've always been a fan of PwC since I was in school. I went to their program that they had for school leavers, and I kind of was just into that company since then. And I got the summer internship. I think I applied start of this year, and I just finished it in July. And I was in the tax part, which is quite small compared to audit. There's not very many people in tax, but it was quite nice because it's quite a small team. And I kind of felt like a small company within a big company. And because Aberdeen is really big on oil, I was working with a lot of oil clients. This way it works is you get assigned a buddy. So I was normally shadowing, I wouldn't really say one person, I was actually shadowing everybody, but I had a buddy that I would kind of report to if there was any issues. But I really enjoyed it. And I think if I didn't do it, I'd be a bit skeptical about applying for PwC because of how big the company is. But the internship kind of gives you a gauge on what you do, what the company's like. And even if you don't want to do that anymore, it's still something that like it gives you an idea. And I think it's really good. It's 4 weeks, it's paid, and it was something that I really enjoyed.
Fantastic. Thank you, Aisha and Anna. I'm happy to kind of pick out some questions that we've had here. So keep the questions coming. Apologies if we've missed your question. I know there's been loads, which is great, but there's been a question around you both done an internship. There's been a question around the internship. Is it mainly shadowing? How would you describe your experience of what you did during your internship? And Anna, would you like to start us off on that one?
Yeah, so I would say the internship was kind of my first real look at PwC internally, as I did Women in Business when it was COVID, so it was all online. But it is, so is it mostly shadowing? No, I would say you do get a lot of responsibility on the internship as well. Of course, the first couple of days or the first couple of weeks, you are shadowing and learning how the systems work, learning how, like, sort of reading your emails and replying to emails and things like that. But I would say it's a good starting point for life at PwC, but I wouldn't say it's just shadowing. You do get assigned work, you do have responsibility, and that kind of sets you up to how PwC is later if you are successful and to get a job as well.
Fantastic. Thanks, Anna. And Aisha, how about you? Tell us a bit more about what you did on the internship.
It wasn't actually shadowing that much. How it worked was I was in Edinburgh because I was in the tax side. So there was only 3 of us in the whole of Scotland. So we were in Edinburgh for the first couple of days. When I came back, I met all the team. They introduced me to everyone. And on the first day, they just explained to me everything. By the next week, I was given everything to do myself. They're very much, if you need help, we're doing an email away, we're a call away, we're probably in the next seat next to you. But I enjoyed it because I didn't feel like I was being babied in a way. They kind of said, this is what you need to do it. This is your deadline. If you need help, you can ask us, but you're an adult, you can kind of do everything yourself, which I really liked.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, both. Okay, there's another question here, which I'll part answer, but then I'll ask you both to share your own kind of personal response as to how you approach this. So there's a question here from PwC around which department would you advise from someone who just graduated, no prior full-time work experience, graduate route or summer internship. So first and foremost, I will say that it is a myth that you need experience to apply for an internship or a graduate job. That's definitely the case at PwC. My view has always been, if there's an employer advertising a graduate job or an internship role that requires experience, it's not a graduate job or internship. Our commitment is, we take students onto the internship program, we recruit new graduates onto our graduate program, and they don't need experience. We will give you all the technical training at PwC to make you into an accountant, a consultant, a tax consultant, whatever it might be. So if you don't have experience, do not worry. That's not going to prevent you from getting a role. It's very much down to you as to which department you think is right for you. But Aisha, we'll start with you. How did you land on tax?
So my sister works at KPMG and she works in audit, which is another Big Four company. And I kind of saw what she did, and I was kind of like, audit really isn't for me. Like, I didn't really enjoy it. I've seen what she does, and it's not really for me. And in University of Aberdeen, we have courses we have to take, and one of them was tax and audit. And I did tax, and I really enjoyed it. I was like, this is something I could see myself doing. And I applied, and I got it, which was quite surprising because there's only 3 positions in Scotland. So I was quite happy with myself. And when I was doing it, I quite liked it. I was like, this is something I could see myself doing.
Fantastic. Thank you, Aisha. And very well done on getting one of the 3 positions in Scotland. You should be pleased with yourself.
Thank you.
And Anna, how about audit? How did you land on applying for audit?
So I did accounting and finance at uni, and I did an audit module. And I mean, I won't say that audit sort of caught my attention at first at the beginning, but I would say I liked the logical thinking. I liked the numbers, and something at PwC, which PwC is, I think, probably one of the best for, is people. So you would work in either huge teams or small teams, and you'd work together a lot in audit and probably in tax, but I think audit in particular. And it's just the people aspect and sort of collaborating with people on audits and things like that. I also knew I wanted to become a chartered accountant, to have that security after. So I would say that's a big thing to think about, which I didn't think about as much coming in. But if you were to get the internship and then get a job from that, you were in audit or tax or some of the other lines of service also do the qualification. But you would have to sit the 15 exams to become a chartered accountant. PwC obviously would help you with that, and you would go through college and get time for your exams and everything. But that's also a big part of why I wanted to do audit, is to become chartered. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. I know that there's some other good questions coming through. I'll just ask you both a question. I talked a bit about the selection process, and we had a question earlier around any hints and tips on how you can kind of calm nerves, whether it be in the lead up to an assessment centre or an interview or any stage of the process. So again, Aisha, we'll start with you. Any tips around how you dealt with your nerves?
I just kind of sat down and I thought, I'm very much, if it's meant to be, it will be. I knew I had experience, with dealing with interviews because, just from part-time jobs. So I just kind of thought, once I opened it up, it was actually very much like I was sitting a final exam. Like, it's something I'm sure we've all done before. It's like walking into an exam hall. It's like being asked a question by somebody, you're working for. So it just kind of helped me go through the process, and everything is very much straightforward. Everything is explained to you. Nothing's, hidden. They're asking you to do something. So it made it easier. I didn't feel like I was being tricked by picking a different question. Everything is honestly black and white.
I love that approach. I wish I could have more of that approach when I entered something like that. But yeah, no, that's great. Thank you. And Anna, how about you?
I would say the most important thing is to be as prepared as possible. So as you've seen in all the links and all the QR codes, there are so many resources out there that you can look at before the interviews, before anything, and sort of familiarising yourself with things like the PwC Professional, as we are still now because it's changed, but sort of thinking of things like that, looking at the resources. And in terms of nerves, again, as I said, nothing is hidden from you. Everyone kind of makes everything very comfortable, and people want you to get the job. So it is very kind of like you are as comfortable as you can be. But as long as you're prepared, and I think as long as you've used the resources that are available, it'll be fine.
some great advice. Thank you very much. Okay, so we've got a question from Ekaterina here. A question for you both. And I will start with you on this one, if that's okay, but I will come to you as well. What kind of skills did you find to be the most important for your work experience at PwC?
As I said sort of briefly before, I would say your people skills at PwC are the ones that will carry you the most, I think. And I've been in the firm now for a year and a bit, but I would say it's, especially in audit, but in, I think, any line of service, it's you need to be able to communicate. You're working with people every day and clients, so you need to be able to communicate to clients as well. And I would say that's probably one of the biggest skills that I've not only learnt, but sort of worked on at my time here as well. Also perseverance, things with exams, you can get exams, busy season, so when it becomes really stressful, but if you kind of persevere and you realize the opportunity that you have or you've been given, I would say that will carry you through it as well.
Thank you. And Aisha, same question to you.
Building on what Anna said, I would honestly say communication was the biggest one. We were told in our internship that, you know, no one's going to scream at you because you can't get the work done. They're going to not be happy with you because you haven't told them you can't get the work done. As long as you're honest and open and you say, you know, I can't do this day, but I can get it done this day. They're very accommodating. Everyone's busy. Everyone has things to do. I mean, you're working for one of the biggest companies in the world. No one's expecting you to get everything done immediately. So I would say just communicating with everybody and making sure you're on the same page really helped. My time when I had deadlines, I would let everyone know I couldn't do it this day, but I can get it done tomorrow, and they were fine with it.
Great. Thank you very much. So yeah, again, some brilliant advice there. Emmanuel, I see you've asked a question. You said you're from an admin background, finance and audit experience. Am I eligible for employment? In terms of eligibility, what we look for the undergraduate and graduate programs is to just ensure that you are in the right years. So, for example, if you're applying for an internship, which I know is the focus of today, you need to be in your penultimate year of study. The experience side just genuinely doesn't matter. You know, we don't need people to have any kind of relevant work experience. You don't even need to do a relevant degree for most of our programs. So, you know, you might be studying an arts and languages degree. Could you still apply for a tax or an audit internship? Absolutely, is the simple answer to that. Okay, I've got a question for you, which I think maybe of interest to our audience. But and Anna, I'll start with you. Can you tell us a bit more about your experiences of working at PwC, but life outside of kind of working in audit? What about the kind of the social aspect of what the firm offers?
Yeah, I would say PwC social aspect is what they kind of do best as well. So if you do join audit, for example, you join with an intake of students, and that kind of becomes your work family for a while, because you sort of do everything together, you go through things together. But the more senior members of staff, so the senior associates, the managers and everything, they really, really take that into consideration that you're new, and you get things like socials and team activities and team breakfasts. So there's a range of things that you do outside of work with sort of your team and your intake. I would say additionally, you get buddies when you come into PwC, so you kind of make friends with them, or career coaches as well, which I think is really great. But you can also join different networks. So there's a variety of networks that I'm sure you can have a look at as well. But yeah, and I think there's lots of things at PwC that you can do to make sort of friends outside of your client work, and socialize with other people as well.
Great, thanks, Anna. And Aisha, did you experience much of the social side during your internship?
I experienced a lot, actually, a lot more than I thought I would. On my second week, we all went to our local pub because we had people from London and Manchester down, because we were all doing training on one of the software PwC use, and it just kind of made me a bit even more inclined to work there, because you kind of have the stigma of a big four. Everyone's in suits, ties, no one speaks to each other, everyone has things to do. But really and truly, on a random Wednesday, I was playing darts with my directors. It was quite fun and social, and I got to know them on a personal level. That wasn't just how long have you worked in the company for. And I really enjoyed it. And I feel like the interns I worked with, because I was the only person in tax, I felt quite scared that I wasn't going to have any friends because they were all in audit. But we actually all sat together. They actually called our table the intern table because we'd all just sit together. And it was really fun. And I really enjoyed it. And I just felt like I was at home. Like I just felt like I was in a class. I didn't feel like I was, working for a company. I felt like I was working for a company that actually wanted me to be there.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I think you mentioned about, people wearing suits. I think in my time at PwC, the firm's definitely evolved and come a long way. And I think back to my first few years, wearing a suit was very much the thing that everybody did. And I think I wore a suit a few weeks ago when I was down in London because I felt it was appropriate for what I was doing that day. But I did actually, when I put my suit on that morning, I thought, I can't actually remember the last time I wore a suit. I think it was about a year prior to that, but that was for a wedding as opposed to a work situation. So I think, there's lots of different ways that the firm's evolved over the years as well. But yeah, what we wear is definitely part of that. So there's a couple of other questions which have just popped up on the chat, which I will address before I ask Anna and Aisha a final question. So Arian's asked around, can you apply for the summer internship if you're in your final year but planning to do a 1-year master's? Yes is the simple answer, as long as you're in your penultimate year. So if you have one more year of study to complete after the internship, so that's absolutely fine. And then Collins has asked, on graduate roles, does it apply also to someone who graduated in 2023? Absolutely. It doesn't matter when you graduated. If you graduated 10 years prior, that's absolutely fine as well. Okay, so there's a question just popped up from Layla, which is for you both. And Aisha, to start with, did you, during your internship, I know your experience is slightly less than Anna's at this stage, but did you go to many face-to-face client meetings? Well, I think you're on mute, Aisha.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you now. Perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sorry. For tax, you don't really, because a lot of your clients are dealing with their accounts, and a lot of the Aberdeen clients were actually in Houston, so you were dealing with their oil accounts. But I do know Anna could probably say more, but a lot of the people I was doing my internship with in audit, they were gone every second day. We used to have to meet up with each other once a week, but we found it quite difficult because they were always on client sites.
And yeah, Anna, same question to you then.
Yeah, so I would say during my internship, I did go to client site. I think it's a bit different for audit, but yes, even now it depends on the client. But you would go to client site probably around 2-3 times a week in London commercial audit. So similarly for other ones as well. But yes, you do go to client site and you have face-to-face meetings with clients as well as meetings sort of online. But yes, is the answer.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Right. Final question from me for you both. And Anna, will start from you. And it is very simple. We've got an audience of nearly 200 today. We've had lots of questions, which has been great. So for anybody in our audience who's thinking of applying for PwC, what one piece of advice would you give?
I would say, again, as I said before, there are so many resources out there. Use the resources as best as you can because all of the answers are in there. Everything that you need to know is in there. And I would say it's such a great company to work for. I loved the first year here, and I couldn't recommend it more, but I would say be ready to work hard as well. But yeah, you work hard, but also the people are lovely. You get so much experience, and I wouldn't recommend it more if I could.
Thank you very much. And Aisha, on to you.
I would say the same thing. Honestly, it's not as scary as you think it is. You're not walking into a company where no one speaks to you. Everyone's friendly. Everyone wants you to do well. Everyone, especially as a summer intern, they want you to be there for, the next year. They want you to stay. You know the company already. They want you back. But I would just say be yourself. Don't try to be someone you're not. Don't try to do anything you're not comfortable doing. Everything is there for you. It's there to help you. So just go for it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So a big, we will wrap up our kind of panel session, but Anna, Aisha, a massive thank you to you. It's great hearing from you both. And hopefully we've got through lots of questions. Just final words to me before I hand back to Josh. hopefully you've enjoyed the session. Thanks for all your questions. Again, we've got a QR code, but I'll pop a link in the chat as well. How can you continue to hear from PwC? If you sign up to what we call our talent community, so you can either scan the QR code or just in the chat, I've popped a link. So do please click on that. If you sign up, register for our talent community, you will receive regular comms from us to tell us, for us to tell you what's happening and when. So if you want to keep in touch with PwC, hear about opportunities, hear about events and so forth, sign up to our talent community. It's very, very easy to do. So thank you very much. Josh, over to you.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much for that. And thank everybody for joining us, taking us through your offerings and everything like that and sharing your experiences, and especially going through all the questions in such detail. That was great. I hope everybody found it insightful and useful. I did see a couple of questions just about, slides and recordings. This has been recorded. So if you did miss anything, it will be on our website and on our YouTube in the coming week. But yeah, thank you very much for everyone for joining, and best of luck to everybody that is applying. Perfect. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Good luck, everyone.
Good luck. Thank you.